Most people are waiting for permission they will never receive. Permission to feel confident. Permission to step forward. Permission to believe, truly believe, that they are capable of something extraordinary. And the cruel irony is this: the world does not give that permission. It never has. It never will. The people you admire most, the ones who seem to move through life with quiet certainty and unshakable presence, they did not wait. They made a decision, a private, almost invisible decision that most people never make. They decided to act as if they were already the person they were becoming. That is not arrogance. That is not delusion. That is one of the most ancient and psychologically powerful principles ever understood by the human mind. And today, we are going to explore exactly why and exactly how it changes everything. Look honestly at your life, not the version you present to others, not the curated story you tell at dinner or post online. The real version, the one that lives in the quiet moments when the distractions fall away and you are left sitting with yourself. In that silence, most people feel a gap between who they are and who they sense they could be, between the life they are living and the life they can almost see on the other side of their fear. And instead of moving toward that gap with curiosity and courage, most people learn to manage it. They build routines around it. They develop habits that keep them comfortable at the edge of their own potential without ever crossing it. This is not laziness. It is something deeper, something more human. It is the fear of claiming something you are not yet certain you deserve. And that fear, quiet and patient as it is, becomes the invisible architecture of a smaller life. Think about this. Most people do not fail because they lack talent. They fail because they never fully decided to show up as the version of themselves that the moment required. Here is what actually happens inside the mind of someone living below their potential. They wake up and immediately begin scanning for signals from the outside world to tell them how to feel about themselves that day. A message from a colleague, the tone of someone's voice, a glance that lasted a second too long, all of it processed by a nervous system that was never taught to generate its own sense of worth from within. This is called reactive consciousness, and it is the default mode of most human beings alive today. Evolutionary psychologists will tell you why. For hundreds of thousands of years, our survival depended on social belonging. Being rejected by the group was not merely uncomfortable, it was dangerous. The brain learned to treat social disapproval as a threat equivalent to physical harm. That wiring still exists inside you. It exists inside all of us. But here is the critical distinction the Stoics understood that most modern people still miss. What was once necessary for survival has become, in modern life, a prison. The mechanism designed to protect you is now the mechanism quietly limiting you. Every time you hesitate before speaking your idea in a meeting, every time you hold back because you're afraid someone might think less of you, every time you make yourself smaller to fit into a space that was never built for your full size, that ancient fear response is running the show. Pause for a moment. Ask yourself honestly, how many of your decisions in the last week were made from your own judgment, and how many were quietly shaped by what you imagined others might think? Nearly 2,000 years ago, a man who ruled the most powerful empire on earth sat alone at night and wrote something he never intended anyone to read. His name was Marcus Aurelius, and in those private pages, what we now call the Meditations, he wrote not as a king, but as a student, a student of his own mind. He wrote to remind himself again and again of a truth he knew was easy to forget in the chaos of ruling, war, loss, and betrayal. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This was not philosophy as decoration. This was a man doing daily psychological work on himself, deliberately, carefully, systematically, choosing the quality of his inner state regardless of what the outer world demanded of him. And he understood something that modern psychology is only now beginning to fully articulate, that how you perceive yourself consistently and without depending on external confirmation becomes the blueprint from which your entire life is constructed. The Stoics did not teach arrogance. They taught sovereignty, sovereignty over your own mind. To act as if you are the best is not about dismissing others. It is about refusing to outsource your sense of capability to a world that has no real understanding of what lives inside you. Now here is where the insight becomes psychologically precise. There is a trap that highly intelligent people fall into, perhaps more than anyone else. It is called the validation loop. It works like this. You have a genuine sense that you are capable of more, but instead of acting from that sense, you wait for evidence. You wait for results. You wait for someone to notice. And when the evidence does not come fast enough, when the recognition is delayed or absent entirely, you begin to doubt the original sense. You start to believe the waiting was wisdom, when in fact it was fear dressed in the clothing of logic. Imagine this situation. Two people of identical ability walk into the same opportunity. One of them carries a quiet, settled certainty about who they are, not loud, not performed, just internal and stable. The other carries the same talent, but wraps it in hesitation, in the need to be confirmed before committing fully. Watch what happens over time. The first person makes decisions faster. They recover from setbacks without collapsing. They attract trust because trust follows certainty. The second person is perpetually almost ready, always one more piece of evidence away from fully showing up. The trap is believing that certainty must come before action. The Stoic truth and the psychological truth is that certainty is built through action, not before it, through it. Carl Jung, one of the most profound psychologists in history, spoke of what he called the shadow, the parts of ourselves we suppress because we fear they are too much, too ambitious, too bold. He argued that the unacknowledged parts of a person do not disappear. They grow heavier. They leak into sabotage and self-doubt and unexplained dissatisfaction. The person who refuses to claim their own greatness does not become humble. They become haunted. So what is the actual shift? It is not telling yourself you are perfect. It is not ignoring your flaws or pretending your weaknesses do not exist. The Stoics were ruthlessly honest about human imperfection. Marcus Aurelius cataloged his own failures with unflinching clarity. The shift is this. You begin operating from your highest vision of yourself, not your most recent memory of yourself. Most people operate from memory. They remember the last time they failed, and they use that as their primary reference point for who they are. They remember the criticism, the rejection, the moment they fell short, and they let those memories become their identity. But your identity is not your history. It is your decision. Epictetus, who was born into slavery and had every reason to define himself by his circumstances, taught that the one freedom no person or situation can ever remove is the freedom to choose your own response. Your response to life, your response to failure, your response to yourself. He said, "Make the best use of what is in your power, and take the rest as it happens." Act as if you are the best, not as performance for others, but as a commitment to yourself, a commitment to meet every moment with the fullest version of what you are capable of, even when that version is still forming. Consider what this actually looks like in the concrete reality of daily life. You are in a professional environment. Someone more senior dismisses your idea without really considering it. The reactive response, the response of someone who has not yet claimed their own ground, is to internalize that dismissal, to conclude, quietly, that maybe the idea was not good enough. Maybe they were not ready for this room. Maybe they should wait until they have more credentials, more experience, more permission. The Stoic response is different. It is not defensive. It is not aggressive. It is simply grounded. The person who acts from internal certainty hears the dismissal, remains steady, and continues thinking. They refine. They return. They do not allow someone else's momentary reaction to become their permanent conclusion about their own value, or consider social pressure, the experience of being in a room where everyone seems more confident, more polished, more at ease. The instinct is to shrink, to perform smallness as a kind of preemptive protection against rejection. But think about what that performance actually costs. Every room you make yourself smaller in is a room where your full contribution never arrived. The person who acts as if they belong, not with performance, not with bravado, but with quiet, settled presence, changes the energy of the room. People feel it, not because they announce their greatness, but because they stopped apologizing for their existence. And in the context of competition, of watching others succeed and feeling the familiar sting of comparison, the internal foundation makes the difference between being energized by others' success and being diminished by it. Someone operating from genuine internal belief looks at another person's achievement and thinks, "That is possible. That is evidence that the ceiling is higher than I thought." Someone operating from reactive self-worth looks at the same achievement and feels smaller. Same event. Completely different inner experience. Completely different trajectory. Socrates believed that the unexamined life was not worth living. But there is a counterpart to that idea that is rarely discussed. The unlived potential is a kind of spiritual debt. When you consistently hold back what you are genuinely capable of, through fear, through the need for permission, through the habit of smallness, you are not being modest. You are being absent from your own life. Aristotle spoke of eudaimonia, a word often translated as happiness, but which more accurately means the full flourishing of a human being. He argued that flourishing comes not from pleasure, not from approval, but from the full actualization of your capacity, from being as completely as possible what you are designed to be. That concept has never been more relevant than it is right now. Seneca, writing to his friend Lucilius across a series of deeply honest letters, observed something that cuts through centuries without losing its sharpness. He wrote, "It is not that I am brave, it is that I know what deserves to be feared. And what deserves to be feared is not failure, not criticism, not the disapproval of people who never fully understood you. What deserves to be feared is arriving at the end of your life, still waiting for permission that was yours to give yourself all along." If this perspective resonates with something real in you, consider subscribing, because this channel exists for exactly this kind of thinking. Slow, honest, philosophically grounded reflection on what it actually means to live with power and clarity. Now pause, not as a technique, not as performance. Actually pause and sit with these questions. Where in your life are you currently operating from your last failure rather than your deepest capability? Where are you waiting for permission, for proof, for someone to confirm what you already know about yourself? And here is the harder question. If you knew with absolute certainty that no one would judge you, no one would mock you, and no one would reject you, what would you do differently starting tomorrow? That answer is important, because what lives in that answer is not fantasy. It is the suppressed blueprint of who you are actually meant to become. Think about this. The distance between who you are today and that version of yourself is not made of years or luck or circumstances. It is made of a series of daily decisions about whether to act from your ceiling or your floor. Here is what happens over time to a person who masters this. They become compounding, not in a financial metaphor, in a real, measurable, human sense. Every decision made from internal certainty rather than external validation builds a slightly stronger foundation. Every moment of staying grounded under pressure adds another layer to a character that becomes increasingly difficult to destabilize. Over years, this person looks different from the outside, not louder, often quieter. But there is something in them, a quality of presence, that people cannot quite name but instinctively trust. They have become what the Stoics called the sage, not perfect, not invulnerable, but oriented, anchored in something that does not shift with the weather of the outside world. And practically, in work, in relationships, in creativity, in leadership, that anchoring translates into better decisions, faster recovery from setbacks, deeper relationships, and a quality of engagement with life that most people only glimpse in rare moments. It is not reserved for extraordinary people. It is available to anyone willing to do the inner work consistently, without an audience, without immediate reward. Here is the final thought, and it is a simple one. You are already the person this video is speaking to, not the version of you that is still waiting, not the version shaped by every opinion that landed wrong. The version underneath all of that, the one that existed before the world taught you to make yourself smaller. Acting as if you are the best is not about becoming someone else. It is about stopping the performance of someone lesser. Marcus Aurelius did not wake up each morning as a finished man. He woke up as a man committed to the practice of becoming. Every day, without guarantee, without applause, without certainty that he was succeeding, he practiced, he chose, he returned. That is all this is, a return, a daily, quiet, dignified return to the truth of what you are capable of. Not tomorrow, not when the conditions are better, not when someone finally sees what you already know. Now, exactly as you are, with exactly what you have. Begin.